Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're opening up a file that I think challenges one of the most persistent myths in the business world.
Hmm.
It's a myth that pretty much everyone buys into, from, Silicon Valley startups all the way to Fortune 500 boardrooms.
Oh, I know this one.
It's the dream team fallacy.
The classic Avengers strategy, yeah.
Exactly. The assumption that if you just recruit the absolute smartest individual rock stars you can find.
The highest IQs, the Ivy League degrees.
Right, and you just shove them all into a conference room, magic is like guaranteed to happen.
It's not.
But we have a stack of research here centered around the book Team Coaching, the science and art of liberating collective intelligence, that says, well, not so fast.
It's actually worse than not so fast.
Mm-hmm.
The research suggests that if you just stack talent, without the right framework,
Yeah.
you don't get magic.
You get what?
You often get disaster. You get stagnation.
Yeah.
Because we tend to view teams as machines. Plug in the best parts, get the best output. But this research argues that teams are ecosystems.
Ecosystems. I love that distinction. And okay, before we get into the weeds, we need to draw a hard line in the sand on our terminology today.
Very important.
We are talking about team coaching.
Right. And we need to be very precise here.
We aren't talking about a football coach screaming on the sidelines, and we are definitely not talking about a management consultant who comes in with a PowerPoint deck to tell you how to run your business.
Precisely. And it's not just group therapy either. The definition we are working with is very specific. Team coaching is a methodology designed to transform a group of individuals into a synergistic system.
A system.
It's about the space between the people, not just the people themselves.
So if traditional training is about fixing the parts, team coaching is about fixing the wiring.
That is the perfect analogy. And we have a lot to get through. We're going to look at the actual neuroscience of why collaboration breaks down, the Project Aristotle data from Google that changed everything, and the specific frameworks like the inverted lencioni that you can actually use.
Okay, let's start with the hardware. The brain. I think a lot of people hear team building and they think of like trust falls or karaoke nights. It feels soft.
Yeah, fluffy.
But the source material here goes straight to the fMRI scans. What is physically happening in our brains when a team is actually clicking?
It's all about something called group neuroplasticity.
Mm-hmm.
So we've known for a while that individual brains can rewire themselves. That's neuroplasticity.
Mm-hmm.
But this research suggests that the way a team interacts can actually rewire the collective processing power of the group.
So a toxic meeting isn't just annoying, it's literally inhibiting your brain function.
100%. Think about the stress response. When you are in a meeting where you feel judged or where there is high tension, your brain releases cortisol.
Stress hormone.
That's the stress hormone, the fight or flight juice.
Right.
And biologically, cortisol shuts down the prefrontal cortex.
Yeah.
That is the part of your brain responsible for strategy, complex problem solving, nuance.
All the good stuff.
All the stuff you need in business. So if your team environment is high stress, you are physiologically incapable of your best thinking. You are operating from your lizard brain.
Which explains why some of the smartest people make the dumbest decisions when they are under the gun in a toxic culture.
Right. Now flip it. Effective team coaching aims to change that chemical cocktail. When you build real trust, and not just I like you trust, but professional vulnerability, you trigger the release of oxytocin.
The bonding chemical.
Yes. And oxytocin does the opposite of cortisol. It lowers the barrier to collaboration. It actually allows the prefrontal cortex to engage fully.
So when we say a team has good chemistry, we aren't using a metaphor.
We are describing a biological state where brains are literally primed to connect and solve problems.
Okay, so we have the biological mechanism, but let's look at the evidence in the wild. This brings us to Google. They are data obsessed.
Totally.
If anyone was going to crack the code on the perfect team, it would be them.
This is the famous Project Aristotle. Google spent 5 years studying 180 of their own teams. They wanted to build an algorithm for the perfect team.
And knowing Google, they probably looked at everything.
Everything. Educational background, gender balance, how often they socialized, hobbies, introverts versus extroverts. I mean, they ran the numbers on every variable you can imagine.
And the assumption, going back to our intro, was probably that the teams with the highest aggregate IQs or the most PhDs would win.
That's what they thought. But the data didn't show that. In fact, they couldn't find a pattern in who was on the team at all.
Wait, at all?
Not really. The data showed that who is on the team matters much, much less than how the team interacts.
That is a massive pivot. So what was the X factor?
Psychological safety. This is a term from Harvard's Amy Edmondson. It was, by a wide margin, the #1 predictor of team success.
Okay, I want to pause on this because psychological safety is becoming a bit of a buzzword, and I think people misinterpret it.
They really do.
It sounds like we're wrapping everyone in bubble wrap and saying, oh, no bad ideas, everyone gets a gold star.
I'm so glad you brought that up because that is the most common misconception. Psychological safety is not about being nice.
It's not.
No, it's not about lowering standards. It is about a lack of fear.
Fear of what?
Fear of interpersonal risk.
Yeah.
So in a psychologically safe team, I can say, I think we are making a huge mistake, or I don't understand this acronym, or even I messed up this code, and I know I won't be humiliated, punished, or ignored for it.
It's the freedom to be wrong without being fired.
Or just the freedom to be the dissenting voice. And the numbers from the source are wild. Teams with high psychological safety had 76% higher engagement.
Okay, that's a soft metric, but what about the hard ones?
They were 50% more productive.
50.
50%.
That is a massive competitive advantage. You're getting half a workforce for free just by changing the emotional climate.
Exactly. If you don't feel safe, you hold back. You don't offer the crazy idea that might be the breakthrough. You don't point out the flaw that might sink the ship.
You just survive the meeting.
You just survive the meeting.
So if psychological safety is the soil, what grows out of it? The source moves from Google to MIT to talk about something called Factor C.
Right. This is collective intelligence. So we all know IQ measures individual intelligence. Factor C is the measure of the group's intelligence. And this is the part that really hammers the coffin shut on that whole dream team fallacy.
Let me guess, a team of geniuses doesn't necessarily have a high Factor C.
Not automatically, no. The MIT researchers found that the average IQ of the group members was not significantly correlated with the collective intelligence of the team.
So you can have a room full of geniuses that is collectively an idiot.
You can. And we've all been in that meeting.
That explains so many corporate disasters. So if IQ doesn't drive Factor C, what does?
They identified 3 specific drivers. And these are things team coaching specifically targets. The first is equality in turn-taking.
Basically, how much does everyone talk?
Right. They found that in high-performing teams, nobody dominates. By the end of the day, everyone has spoken roughly the same amount.
What if 1 or 2 people are just way louder?
If 1 or 2 people hog 80% of the airtime, the collective intelligence drops like a stone.
Even if the person talking is the smartest one in the room.
Especially then. Because you aren't accessing the distributed processing power of the rest of the group. You're bottlenecking the team's brain through one mouth.
Okay, that's a hard pill to swallow for some of the extroverted leaders listening. What's the second driver?
High social sensitivity. This is the ability to read the room. To look at a colleague's face and say, wait, John looks skeptical, or Sarah seems confused, and then acting on it.
So empathy isn't just a soft skill, it's a mechanism for data gathering.
It is the bandwidth of the team. If you can't read the nonverbal cues, you are missing half the data. And the third driver was cognitive diversity, just having different thinking styles.
So systemic team coaching isn't just cheering people on, it's basically engineering.
It is.
You are engineering the turn-taking, engineering the sensitivity to maximize this Factor C.
Exactly. It's optimizing the variables that allow intelligence to emerge.
Okay, I'm sold on the why. The science is solid. But let's get practical. How do we actually build this? The source outlines the inverted Lencioni model. Most people know Patrick Lencioni's 5 dysfunctions of a team.
The classic pyramid, yeah.
Right. But the coaching approach flips it. Instead of focusing on the dysfunction, we build the solution from the bottom up. Walk us through that pyramid. What's the foundation?
The foundation is vulnerability-based trust.
How is that different from regular trust?
Regular trust is, I trust you to do your job. Vulnerability-based trust is, I trust you enough to say, I need help or I'm struggling. If you don't have that, you can't move to the second level, fomenting debate.
This is the one that surprised me. We usually think a good team is a peaceful team, but you're saying we want conflict.
We want ideological conflict. If we trust each other, we can argue passionately about the idea without it feeling like an attack on the person.
And if you don't have that trust?
If we don't have trust, every disagreement feels like a political assassination attempt, so we just stay silent.
Artificial harmony.
Exactly. A great team should be loud. They should be debating.
No.
Because that debate leads to level 3, commitment.
Explain that connection. How does arguing lead to commitment?
It's the whole concept of disagree and commit. If I've been heard if we really hash it out. I can buy into the decision even if it wasn't my idea.
But if I just stayed quiet,
But if I stayed silent because I didn't feel safe, I'll nod my head in the meeting, but I'll sabotage it in the hallway later.
the classic meeting after the meeting.
Right. And once you have real commitment, you get accountability. And this is key, peer-to-peer accountability.
Not from the boss.
In a weak team, the boss holds everyone accountable. In a high-performing team, the peers hold each other accountable. Hey, you said you'd have that done. We're waiting on you.
And all that leads to the top of the pyramid. Results.
Collective results. Putting the team's win above your individual ego.
It sounds so clean when you lay it out, but diagnosing where a team is broken is hard. The source mentions some tools like GRPI or TCI. We don't have time to go deep into the acronyms, but the takeaway is you need a map.
Right. You can't just guess. Diagnostic tools give you the baseline. But I want to highlight one specific tool from the source that anyone can use tomorrow, the AAR, or After Action Review.
This comes from the military, right?
Originates in the military, adopted heavily in aviation and medicine, high-skills environments. And the data says using AARs can improve a team's learning capacity by 25%.
That's significant. So what does a good AAR look like? Because I've been in postmortems that were just blame games.
That's the trap. A good AR is forward-looking. It asks, what did we expect to happen? What actually happened? Why was there a gap? And what will we do differently next time?
No blame.
It strips out the blame and focuses purely on the process.
And the source ties this back to neuroscience again with mirror neurons.
This is fascinating. As humans, we are wired to mimic. We have these mirror neurons that fire when we see someone else perform an action.
So that's why role modeling is so powerful.
So powerful. If the leader is frantic and aggressive,
The team becomes frantic and aggressive.
the team's mirror neurons fire, and they become frantic and aggressive. But if the leader models vulnerability, if they say, I made a mistake in that calculation, it signals the team's brains that it's safe to do the same. Leadership is literally contagious.
Let's look at a concrete example, because all this theory is great, but does it work in a massive, complex organization? The source points to Microsoft.
This is one of the great turnaround stories of the last decade. If you remember Microsoft in the early 2010s, it was intense.
I remember reading about the stack ranking system.
Oh, brutal.
Employees were graded on a curve. If you were in a team of 10 stars, someone still had to be rated a failure.
It created a culture of internal warfare. You didn't want to help your teammate because their success might mean your failure. It was the absolute antithesis of collective intelligence.
Enter Satya Nadella.
Nadella came in and didn't just change the strategy, he changed the ecosystem. He implemented a massive coaching program based on Carol Dweck's growth mindset.
Moving from know-it-alls to learn-it-alls.
Exactly. They used coaching principles to embed this. They stopped punishing failure and started rewarding learning. And the results? A 300% increase in stock value over 5 years and a complete resurgence in innovation.
Wow.
And the source emphasizes this wasn't luck, it was intentional design.
But here is where the skeptics come in. I can hear the CFOs listening. This sounds great, but coaching is expensive. It takes time away from real work. What is the ROI?
The data is surprisingly hard. The International Coaching Federation research shows an ROI of 7 times the initial investment.
7 times.
A 700% return.
I'll take that return any day.
But there's another metric from the Corporate Executive Board that I think is even more compelling for leaders who are burnt out. Effective teams reduce dependence on the team leader by 40%.
Wait, break that down for me.
It means the team becomes self-regulating. They solve their own conflicts, they manage their own workflows. They don't need you to referee every single dispute.
So you get your life back.
You get to actually be a strategic leader instead of a glorified firefighter.
That leads us to the stat that I think is going to be the most controversial for our listeners. It's the 15% rule.
Oh, this is a tough one for the hustle culture.
Right.
The research shows that teams that dedicate more than 15% of their time to reflecting on how they work, discussing process, communication, dynamics, outperform teams that just keep their heads down working 100% of the time.
15%? That's massive. In a 40-hour week, that's 6 hours. You're telling me we need to spend nearly a full day just talking about how we talk.
It feels counterintuitive, I know. But think about the woodcutter analogy. If you are sawing down a tree with a dull blade, you are working incredibly hard, sweating, grinding away.
But you're not getting very far.
You're making slow progress. That 15% is the time you stop sawing to sharpen the blade.
But try telling a manager, hey, we're going to stop coding for 6 hours this week to discuss our feelings about the workflow.
It's a hard sell. But the alternative is working with a dull blade. You get burnout, rework, and communication breakdowns that cost way more than 15% of your time to fix later.
So how do you actually sell this? Because I know there are listeners who want to try this, but they are terrified of the eye roll. They don't want their team to think they've gone soft or joined a cult.
The eye roll factor is real. The source suggests you don't try to boil the ocean.
Start small.
Don't announce a massive cultural transformation. Start with a pilot. Pick one team.
Right.
Apply these principles. Measure the hard metric speed of delivery, error rates, and the soft metrics like engagement.
Let the results speak for themselves.
Let the results argue for you.
And what about the confusion with therapy? I think that's a big blocker. I don't want to talk about my childhood at work.
And you shouldn't. This is business, not therapy. The solution is clear contracting. You set boundaries up front. You use techniques like clean language, which is a coaching method to keep questions objective and focused on work goals.
So it's about the work.
We are analyzing the dynamic, not the person's soul.
Okay, but what about the person who just refuses? The rock star who says, I'm here to code, not to hold hands, leave me alone.
Resistance to vulnerability is normal. You can't force it. If you try to force someone to open up, you destroy psychological safety instantly.
So what do?
You start with low exposure exercises. The source mentions something like a shared values discovery.
Yeah.
You aren't asking them to share their deepest fears. You're just asking what matters to you in a project.
Yeah.
Efficiency, quality, speed.
Oh, okay.
It's a safe way to start connecting on a human level without it feeling invasive.
Build the bridge slowly.
Exactly.
All right, we are coming to the end of our deep dive. We've covered the neuroscience, the Google data, the tools, the ROI, but we always like to leave our listeners with something they can do today. The source suggests a 30-day experiment.
Yes, this is great because it costs $0. Here is the challenge. Next week, hold a retrospective with your team. But here's the catch. If you are the boss, try to step out of the room.
Get out of the way.
Or if you stay, speak last and speak least.
And what are we asking?
3 simple questions. What should we start doing? What should we stop doing? And what should we continue doing?
Start, stop, continue. Classic.
But here is the execution key. For the next 3 weeks, pick just 2 things from that list to implement, not 10.
2. And stick to them.
Relentlessly. Then measure the impact. It sounds simple, but you are signaling 2 things. 1, I value your input. And 2, our process is malleable. We can change how we work. That alone boosts psychological safety.
Before we wrap up, there is a final metaphor from the book that I think beautifully captures the shift we need to make.
Yes. It says to remember that teams are not machines that need repair. They are gardens that need cultivation. You can't just swap out a broken part and expect a garden to bloom. You have to water it, weed it, ensure the soil, the psychological safety is nutrient-rich.
And the coach, or the leader, acting as coach, is the gardener.
Correct. You don't make the flower grow, you create the conditions for growth.
I love that. It takes the pressure off fixing people. So here's a provocative thought to leave you with today. We know now that collective intelligence relies on social sensitivity and equal turn-taking.
Right.
So in your next meeting, I want you to ask yourself a hard question. Are you contributing to the team's IQ, or are you suppressing it? If you are the smartest person in the room, but you are taking up 80% of the airtime, according to the science, you might actually be making your team dumber.
That is a tough pill to swallow, but a necessary one.
Something to think about the next time you reach for the unmute button. That's it for this deep dive into the science of collective intelligence. We'll catch you on the next one.
Keep cultivating.